I feel like a big time podcast host welcoming in another big time podcast host, the captain of the New England Patriots, Devin McCourty. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Out here trying to
Yeah.
find a way to win. That's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, I know. Tough times right now. I mean, you're not really familiar record wise. This is new for you, 2-5. What's the mood in that room right now?
Just grinding. I think a lot of times, people always assume like your professional career is kind of, the only thing but I think we have a lot of guys in that locker room, whether it's been in college, high school, different things in life, adversity has hit. And they just keep fighting. They find ways to come out on top. And I feel like that's what we have, a locker room full of guys like that. So especially the older guys that have been there, we've just been trying to lead the way and really show everyone, obviously the results not what we want, but there's a process. There's things you have to do to have a chance to win, and we've just been trying to do those things each week.
Yeah. You're one of the few veterans in that locker room, at least for the ones that didn't opt out, the ones that were drafted by the Patriots, were groomed by the Patriots, that will retire a Patriot. You're a veteran that's seen it all. Obviously, this is very unfamiliar territory for you, but also being unfamiliar is some of the comments that Bill Belichick has said publicly. I feel like, some of the things that he says to the media, it's more of a reflection of what he would say to the locker room. It's kind of full game right there. It's not really the complete story, but him saying that you know, he sold out for 3 Super Bowls, and whether or not this year, speculation he's taking it seriously or not. Uh, are you surprised at how candid he's been?
I never really pay attention to all of that stuff. I would say, for us in the building, like that, we always talk about, previous years has nothing to do with this particular team. So call it the 14 team, 16, 18 team, like none of that, matters for us in the 2020 team. So, each day's been locked in on how we get better, starting with, building the squad meetings of the different things we need to improve on, all of those things. Like that's been the vibe in the building. Now, all the things I go outside and interviews and stuff, that doesn't really have an impact on us. And I think, and I'm probably different. I've been in this league for a while. I've been the guy who checks, ESPN, the NFL Network, and all that stuff to find out what they're talking about. Like that's how I was as a young guy.
Mm.
And then my second year, when them struggles started, and you hear people talk bad about you every day, you got to find something else to do. So. I try to stay busy with all the off the field stuff and family stuff, so I don't pay attention to that. But I would say in the locker room, like that hasn't been the case. Talking about other seasons and years past, it's just been trying to figure out how can this 2020 team win football games. Like that's really been, I would say from my standpoint and point of view from the top down.
What's been the biggest challenge getting this team together? I mean, is it really restrictive inside an NFL facility in terms of getting ready to play games this year?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's been a little bit of everything, and we're not special that we had to deal with and other teams didn't. But we're like everyone else, obviously starting the year and not doing the normal things you would do in the off season and then leading into training camp. A lot of people talk about the missed time in the spring, but even training camp, starting the way we started, with just workout days and then limited practice days and then full practice days. And then next thing you know, you're in that first game, and then obviously we had the whole impact of having COVID in the building and what that did to us. And, I would say you look now, it seems like it's a little bit better with teams handling it. But I would say we were one of the first teams after the Titans where it was kind of a lot of unknowns. You didn't know what was going to happen from a day to day standpoint. So I would say that adversity, that 2020 has brought, I would say across the world, hit football. Football is not immune to that. And, I would say for us as a team, we've just been kind of battling and fighting through it. And these last couple of weeks where we've been able to be more normal, I think have benefited us. We just got to turn the benefits into wins, not just, a better play, a better showing, but we fall short. Like we got to have a better showing, but then make those couple plays to now win for it to be, a good week.
When at what point in the season? I know I was born here. I covered this team for many years. I'm not saying we're throwing in the towel. I'm not. Everyone that, doubts the Patriots or says that they're tanking, like there's no room for that in this franchise. But At what point in the season would you say that like guys like Kyle Duggar and Josh Uche, you're going to see more of them on the fields just as a fundamentally, building experience standpoint? Because I think a lot of Patriots fans would like to see that, especially since the recent drafts have, not been as successful as they wanted it to. The player developments, what at what point in the season would we start to see those guys play some more, snaps?
Yeah, and I think you've seen those guys, and I think some of the hard thing with, especially defensively with some of those guys is they battle some injuries. Uche was hurt earlier and was on IR for a little bit, and Doug's missed the last 2 games. Anthony really started out hurt to begin a training camp and all. So you talk about missing time, then being a rookie, and then you miss time because of injury on top of, everything else that's happened. So I think those guys are trying to get out there. You saw Uche a little bit more in the Buffalo game. You've seen Doug throughout the season being out there. So I think those guys are going to show up. And, even like you spoke over the last few years, different draft. Like we just had a lot of veterans over here in the last few years. The last couple of years we've had probably, the oldest, top 2 oldest secondaries in the league. We've had a good amount of veteran players. So I think that's, you're talking about fans and stuff. You watch, you want to see some of these guys that get drafted. You want to see them out there. But, in some cases we had, other proven veterans that were playing. I remember being a rookie and coming in and, it was really an overhaul. There wasn't a ton of guys at my position still, and having that chance to play early. I think some of these guys haven't had that opportunity, because we've had, some depth at other spots. And, I think this year has been a little different. You've seen more guys out there, and I think you'll continue to see that just as the season goes, because that's just what happens. Young guys, you miss a whole spring, a whole off season, but now they're getting it. They're going to be able to get out there more. So I think you'll definitely see some of the guys who are higher draft picks get more opportunity in being out there.
Player development, that's what it's all about. The current veterans that are on the team, very unpredictable, very flat trade deadline. But your guy Steph Gilmore was on the trade block. I know that they say we didn't hear anything about the rumors, but it's flying around all the media and all that stuff. Do you talk to those guys when this whole process is going on? What's the conversation like, player to player, when obviously Steph knows he's a trade boy?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, since I've spent my whole career here, every year we're going to trade somebody and we're going to trade for a big name from some other team. Every year I've been here, you can go down the list. I mean, AJ Greens, the Odell Beckhams. I can't even think of the name, but you go on Instagram, all these guys have been photoshopped in Patriot jerseys, like every single year. JJ Watt, like Clown, like all of these guys. So I feel like for me, I always take it with a grain of salt, because I'm like, in one sentence, everyone knows a guy that's going to get traded or we're trading for. And then in the next sentence, they say, we never know what Bill's going to do. So it's like, well, then how do you know this guy is definitely going to get traded? So, definitely different times. I think guys, like, we talk about it, it comes up. Like, well, sometimes we'll crack jokes about it. Like, man, did you see you about to get traded to this team or that team? But, I had told Mike Girardi that on Sunday, like, it is what it is. Whatever happens at the deadline, either that happens or it doesn't. There's not much control over that. So I would say another year where it's come and gone. Oh, in 2015 we're supposed to trade for my brother. Like, I was excited, and that didn't happen. So every year something big supposed to happen here in New England. I think that's the standard. Like you said earlier, like, fans have come to expect. You go to the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl every year. Like, if that doesn't happen, it's a failure. So you gotta take it for what it is.
Speaking of the guys who aren't on the team anymore, it's a little different when you're winning or losing, but it's a little different when you're watching Tom Brady win down in Tampa Bay. Do you miss him? Have you caught any games?
I talked about that earlier today, man. I miss all the guys that I've gotten a chance to play with. Even when I jump on the phone, I talk to Vince. Like, I miss playing with him. I mean, I jumped on Talib's podcast and told him, maybe you can change your mind if we still trying to sign you. Come back. But for me as a player, like, I try to tell people all the time, like, Tom Brady is not like the Patriots quarterback Tom Brady to me. Like, Tom Brady is a former teammate, a friend of mine. So the same way when I watch the Detroit Lions play with Jamie, Trey, and Do, or the Dolphins with E-Rob and KV and those guys and Ero, like I root for them. So like when I watch the Tampa games, I root for them. I rooted for Tom on offense and a little bit of Logue on defense. Like I wanted those guys when Tampa played the Giants. Like I want success for those guys. Like they're friends of mine. Like I like seeing that. So I don't have that like, man, we hate Tom Brady because he's not our like I just can't have that in me. Like I root for, all the guys that I've had opportunity to play with, whether in the NFL or college. Like it's fun watching those guys have success, especially as you get older. Obviously Tom's older than me, but watching younger guys, go somewhere else and be leaders and captains, like to me, that's awesome.
Yeah. You talked about the guys that are in the division a little south. I feel like it's Patriots South in
Yeah,
Miami.
that's your
It's
that's your
Patriots
former
West.
team.
Oh, I know. Devin makes fun of me because I traded my colors. Do you know that wasn't my fault? I had a producer who was like, "You come down here and you even mention anything New England, I'm getting you fired." Like I had no choice.
So you
So
embraced
yes,
it.
yeah,
Respect.
Dolphins fan.
Respect.
Listen, I told you that I traded my colors back a couple of years ago. But what's different? You got to root for. Okay, so you said that you're fans of everyone of their former teammates. So you're a fan of the Miami Dolphins. You got
I root.
Buffalo a head coach. Yeah,
I
Van Noy.
do.
You are a
Now,
Miami Dolphins fan.
now I would say
What's
this is a little different. Like I want those guys to do well, but I'm not gonna lie. Like I do like when they lose because we're in the division. So I mean, a loss for them means it's better for us. But it's hard. Like when you like even when I watch film, like we're playing the Jets this week. I'm watching the Miami Jets game. Like I'm texting KV, I'm texting E Rob and Ero, like cracking jokes on what I see. Like it's hard not to root for guys that personally. Like I was at these guys' weddings. Like we're all good friends. So it's hard not to like hope they do well or text them when you're watching plays and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what's different about the AFC East this year? You just played the Bills. You're playing the Jets coming up Monday night. What's different besides the fact that Tom Brady is not the head quarterback of the New England Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's all pretty competitive. Like you look at the teams who have, we've all played each other for the most part. We're gonna play the Jets for the first time, but it's all been pretty competitive games. Obviously, Miami jumped out on the Jets, and and the first Jets Buffalo game, the Buffalo took off. But you watch that last Buffalo Jets game, went right down to really the last possession. Our game went to the last possession, so it's always competitive. And obviously, I think for everyone else, it's super exciting right now because, like you just said, there's no more Brady. The Patriots are in third place in the division, so it's like, here's this new thing. But I think for us is just realizing like the season's not over. Like a lot of things happen every year. We just got to keep playing. But it's fun for me now. 11 years in the same division, and you see the ups and downs, and you see how things go, how teams have changed. So it's always going to be competitive, and we just got to keep fighting in it.
The season's not over. There were there's some things you would have liked to have go your way. Thinking that Seattle game. Is there any point in the season? I know that if you could have a hall pass, a mulligan on one thing that could have changed the course of the early portion of the season, one play, one night, or one game, what would it be?
I would say just the whole COVID thing, going out to Kansas City, like being in Kansas City at full strength, without, traveling day to game. Like I think all of that, because I just feel like that was a good time for us. Like Miami came out, played well. Seattle was right down in the stretch, came back, beat Vegas at home. And now it was like, man, we're going to play like the dogs in the AFC, defending Super Bowl champs, like the Chiefs. And then we went out there and we fought hard. Like we played them tough. But it was just so much that went on leading up to that game, game times changing, days changing. So just to have that regular, and not saying it would have, granted us a win. But I think just being out there, full strength and being able to go and not have to have, it was just a mess. I would say leading into that game was, I guess, Saturday morning. From that point on, we just had like a complete mess that I would love to have back.
Do you think that there were guys that still felt the effects of COVID? weeks after, say they were shedding the virus? Do you feel like that was still an impact? Bodies were tired, they were dehydrated. Like, was that an impact at all?
I don't know. I would say like I think like everybody, like nobody knows about this virus. Of like, some guys get it and they feel perfectly fine. Other guys get it and they say it's a struggle to get out of bed. And that's even from talking to different guys who know guys on other teams, hearing the different stories. So like I don't know. I don't know how guys have felt, mentally, physically, like when they take the field coming back. I just know it's different no matter what when you can't do what you normally do. Call it 5 days, 10 days. All of that changes when you can't come in and get your lifts, like all of that, I think affects a player.
Well, not to mention the whole COVID restrictions of the facility, the fact that I think Scott Zolak talks about it all the time on the radio. The fact that, like, hey, you come into a locker room, the music is blasting and everyone's picking up weights. It feels like a unity, like a team. You can't even eat with some players. Some guys are like grabbing food and eating in the car. It's how does that
It's
help or hurt team unity? I listen. You're a veteran. You get it. You've been here for long enough. But how much is it affecting guys? You think, or
it's crazy. It's become the norm, and I think, for a guy like Zoe, like he doesn't know that, like he's never had to be in that. So like you think about it, and it is like before I would have had to be in this, and you would have told me like the different restrictions. I'm like, no, football can't operate that way.
yeah,
But I would say, you ask anybody any of these questions after 2020, they're gonna be like, yeah, like I could do that. What do you mean, like work every day virtually? Yeah, I've done that before. And I would say coming in, you'd be like, no way. And I would say like our game in football has taken on the same impact that everything else has. So like, yeah, it's been crazy, locker rooms spaced out, lockers in between, all of that. But it's become normal. I would say one of the things even, sucks from a personal standpoint of doing what's best safety wise for the team, not going out, not doing like I'm usually me, J Mac, and the Wise Monday nights, usually our date night. We're going to restaurants and you don't do those things, like not being able to see my mom come up for games. So I think
yeah.
that those things, I think really, I won't say hurt you, but it's a big adjustment because I think mentally some of those small things play a major role for players from a week to week of feeling good and going out there and competing.
Speaking of the wives, this was really my first question coming out here. The NFL season is basically falling apart before our eyes. We're all jaded and eyes glued to the election. But three facilities were shut down. Four, after rather, today. The
To that,
Texans, the Colts, the
oh
Bears,
yeah.
and the Chiefs. That's four. 8 new positive tests, 17 among personnel. Your wife is a doctor, and obviously I don't disclose conversations behind the scenes, but the two of you and I had a loose conversation where you loosely said the league's probably going to shut down soon. What does your better half say, just from a medical perspective, because we're not doctors?
Well, I try to avoid the medical discussions with her. She was big, even with coming in. She wanted exact numbers. What's going to make the league shut down? And I was like, I doubt anything. And it's just the way it goes. And like you said, with so much happening, and I think because when you look at like different areas, numbers are rising. That people are going to be like, football is no different. So unless you see probably like 20 something guys, we're going to just keep trucking along. So um, she's been great through everything. I mean, when we had our thing on our scare with our team of me being in the hotel and not being home and her having to deal with the kids full time, she's just been
Yeah.
awesome with all of that. So, and I would say probably that goes along with probably all NFL players, wives, girlfriends, mothers or aunts, whoever are helping guys out. It's been a year that you're very grateful to have, other people in your life that have helped, pick up the slack, especially in some of these special situations when, you get a little bit of fear of the COVID and you're like, man, let me just get away and protect my family.
Yeah. I got to take you back to that 24 hours in Kansas City, because among those teams, the Packers and the 49ers, who are playing tonight on Thursday Night Football, had both of their facilities shut down.
Yeah.
The NFL basically ushered you onto a plane, a COVID plane, a sick plane. What were those 24 hours like up to the kickoff? And like, what was it like being on two planes, and how are you feeling on a human level?
It was hectic. The two planes didn't bother us because we had to do that last year when we went to Houston.
Yeah.
When we had like a flu
Yeah. Yeah.
outbreak, so we had
Right.
to
Yeah.
do that. But I would say as you wait, like we didn't have information, so you wait, and it's like, all right, they said you might travel a day of the game, you might travel the day before the game. You're like, okay. Then you're there Sunday, and you realize, all right, we're not traveling. Hey, we're traveling Monday, playing Monday. As an older guy, you're like, no, we're not. Like no one does that. Like it's a high school team. And sure enough, and I think once the decision was made, we were just like, we just go and lay it all out there. And I would say honestly, like we came out and played hard from the beginning. Like so I wouldn't say like just that part of it hurt us. I would just say it's hectic, and I think it was even hectic for them because they were also dealing with, a COVID case. Now it was easier; they were at home, but I think for them, games here, games there, moving. So both teams had to deal with a lot, and it'll be similar, like you just said, with Green Bay and San Fran. San Fran receivers, can they play? Can they not? Like you're just reading all this, and it's like this is crazy.
Yeah. You're really certainly a voice of the league, and you've been very outspoken on a number of different things. But just in terms of, I know your brother had some choice words for the way the league has been handling COVID, at least on your own podcast, Double Coverage. By the way, on Nesson, big time. You guys got picked up by a big network way before me. You took coming after my job, man. Come on.
Your time's coming, man. Your time's
Oh,
coming.
I mean, I was on a national network, so let's just take it there. You
Yeah.
move up and down. It's just like a stock, all right? So Devin's stock is up, Courtney's stock is a little down. Um, what's been like your tolerance of the way that the league has handled everything this season?
I think going back to when J Mac talked about that. I think the biggest thing he said was, at the end of the day, everyone in the building has to protect each other in that building, and I would say that goes for all 32 teams. There's protocols, there's different things that you got to follow, but at the end of the day, when anything happens, like it has to be those people. Like we can't say, someone in New York is going to care more about our building than we do. Like it just doesn't make sense from a common sense level. So I think for us, we've taken that on. Like, hey, let's protect each other. Let's do the right things off the field. Let's, if something happens, let's, right away, guys have said that. Like, if a guy tests positive, like we've shot each other text messages, guys we've been with. So we don't have to wait, for the whole, like, hey, this has to look up to Trace and here, he has to do this. Like, it's a lot. Our trainer's been in the middle of this, handling, positive tests, contact. Like, it's a lot for him. So we just felt like as players, we can do our part by just helping each other out, protecting each other's families. And we feel like that is what's going to keep us safe more than, people who care about putting the game on. Like, and it is what it is. Like, I'm not calling them, like, I'm not in here acting like these guys are rare and they're like these evil bad guys from a cartoon. Like, it is what it is. Like, the point of the NFL is to keep games on and make money. Like, that's going to happen. But we also can take extra measures to make sure we're safe. And I think that's been our focus, and something that's helped us, along the way this season.
You certainly have respected the opinions of guys like Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower to opt out. Are there any moments this season where you say, why did I opt in?
Hell yeah! When that COVID broke out, I think everyone had that thought of like, man, how we get out of here in a hurry.
See ya.
And I think that's just a natural. It's like anybody else. If you're going to work every day and everything's good, and then you go to work one day and COVID outbreak happens, you're like, get me out of here as fast as possible. So I think we all had that initial feeling, and as things started getting sorted out, listen, we've all enjoyed playing football, especially I'm 33 years old. Like I didn't want to miss a year because missing a year could have been the end. So I've enjoyed, even though this has been a rough year, a lot has gone on. I've enjoyed just having an opportunity to play football. Like I don't take that for granted. Of being able to go out there and do that, each day in practice and going out there playing games on Sunday.
I gotta just circle back again to the people that don't understand playing it's an NFL season in COVID. Now you've just gotten used to it. It's the day to day. It's the norm. Working digitally, guys like Matt Light, who went on WEI, my former radio station, and had some choice words and comments, and kind of spoke for Bill Belichick, saying that, listen, we're kind of lackadaisical this year because he knows that this is a joke. As a veteran, do those words hurt you? Does that piss you off?
No, I mean, I said this earlier when I was asked, Teddy Bruschi did an interview and said, like, this just is not a good football team. And I think sometimes, like, these guys are legends here. Matt Light, Teddy Bruschi, great football players. I got an opportunity to play with Matt Light. So I think when, fans and people outside hear it, they're like, man, that has to hurt as a player. But like the honest truth is, like, they don't owe us anything. And for us, we don't owe them anything. They're just someone else with an opinion, either working in the media or deciding to do an interview. So for me, that's no different than if you name just a random analyst or someone who gives their opinion about it. Like, for me, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care that Matt Light used to play here. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. If he would have said we were the greatest team ever, I wouldn't have cared anyway. So I think, people are going to have their opinions, but, I think as you were hinting towards, there's no way we're out here during COVID doing all of this stuff for it to be a big joke. Like that just, I mean, when you're in it, like there's no way you're going to see it as a joke. And I would say overall in the world, like COVID's not a joke. So like, I wouldn't say you do anything as a joke right now, going on in our world.
Speaking of other analysts or at ESPN, I mean, there's some choice guys who, me personally, I couldn't care for Bart Scott. I feel like Damian Woody too was he was on the Patriots and he went to the Jets.
But
And
I get those guys. I get those guys' opinion. You were on the Jets. You were getting killed year in, year out. We were going to Super Bowls, winning Super Bowls. Like, what is the chance they're gonna go in there and be like, yeah, man, I love the Patriots? Like, there's no shot you're gonna hear that. So I actually know someone that's pretty close with Bart Scott and talked to him plenty of times. And not a bad guy at all. Good dude. But like I'll never expect Bart Scott to be a Patriot fan. Like, it's not happening. Not happening.
I had that same situation happen with Marshall Faulk at NFL Network. The few times that I spent, time with him on the road for Thursday night footballs, and he's cousins with Kevin Faulk. And my mother always used to say, "Oh, Kevin must be upset. He was the least favorite famous running back." But I mean, Marshall Faulk was on the greatest show on turf, Kurt Warner, and they got beat. Patriots 14.5 point, underdogs, and they beat them in the Super Bowl, their first title.
I can't lie. I was rooting for the Rams in that Super Bowl. I had a Kurt Warner jersey back in school because I liked the colors. But who wasn't a fan of the greatest show on turf? So I definitely rooted for the Rams. Yeah, I mean, you lived in Massachusetts.
No. You know what? I knew the second that they won that Raiders game, I just had the faith. I knew that they were going to go all the way. I just walked in that night. And when it happened, I just was like, I can't believe it. I mean, listen, it happens every time that you win a Super Bowl too, right? 3 rings. Speaking of, let's just move to the fun conversations about, I love these NFL throwback accounts that the NFL obviously has. The check down is an NFL league account. The NFL throwback, they compared, because there's a lot of talk about DK Metcalf, but I mean, Calvin Johnson was the original Megatron.
Yeah,
he was the original
was
LeBron with shoulder pads. And they, who is it? Darius Butler or someone, they're like, showed the two of them on the line, like corner safety, and they're just like this, and Calvin. It's the funniest picture, but
you had to think of creative ways to try to slow Calvin Johnson down back in the day. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's my question. Who is the most intimidating, largest body you've had to cover in your career?
I would say some of the most impressive people when you take the field. So I played Steven Jackson my rookie year in the preseason, and he came out there,
future Hall of Famer for sure.
Jersey rolled up, abs cut out, big, and I was like, dang. And then, like you just said, Calvin Johnson my rookie year, going out there, we played Detroit Thanksgiving, and he walks out, and you're like, is that a tight end or a receiver? Huge. I remember the first time he blocked me on a run play, and we take on blocks, you try to engage and you throw the guy, And when I reached, my hands couldn't touch his pads. Like I could, once his hands are on me, my arms are too short. And I got to the sideline. So he blocked me for a good 6 seconds that play. And the corner coach was like, "You got to get off the block." I was like, "I can't touch him. His arms are too long." So the rest of the game, I'm just finding ways to knock his hands down. So, playing against him, I would say just soon as you walk out there, especially when you're young, it's the first time you go out there, you're like, wow, like I gotta, and then you go out there, and once you get out there, you just go play. It was fun going. It was fun someday to be like, hey man, I went against this guy toe to toe and competed with him, and he's one of the greatest to ever play the game.
That's why, your league experience expands double digits. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah, I'm
like,
one of
coach,
those.
like
I tell guys some of the like matchups or like guys I play with. Like I tell guys like when I first got to New England, Torrey Holt was still here. Torrey Holt was
yep.
on the team in the off
Mhm.
season, and guys would be like, Torrey Holt, you were in the NFL with Torrey Holt was still in the NFL, and I
Is
was
it
like,
upsetting
yeah,
to you? Because I literally I wrote this question down because I was like, damn, I gotta ask Dev that. And I said, like, I wrote as like an introduction to the question, I can't believe I'm at the point in my life where I have to educate the younger NFL fan on just basic guys, basic players. Who was Asante Samuel? I mean, who was your cornerback? Who did you model your game after?
oh well, when I was young, Champ Bailey,
Ah, I love Champ
Charles
Bailey.
Woodson,
Yep.
Deion Sanders. Like I remember my rookie year going to the Pro Bowl, and I got voted in, and then Namdi Asamoah got hurt, and Champ Bailey came. So they were like, "Well, because you were voted in, like you bump up to the starter." And I went up to Champ Bailey, and I was like, "No, I can't start over you. Like there's no way." And I still remember
Yeah.
my rookie year playing Green Bay and going to Charles Woodson after the game and like telling him just how much like I watched him and like it was crazy to be on the field with him. So all of these guys, I would say but it's different now with these younger kids like fantasy football. Like I don't know as much as kids grow up watching guys and like I don't. They probably do, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little different. When I was a kid.
Yeah, they look at stats and numbers. It's exactly why I hate
Yeah,
fantasy. I hate fantasy football. It's not real life. This is not how you judge or monitor a game. It's a game of algorithms, and I hate it too. I
yeah.
my hero too was It's funny because Terrell Davis. I don't know if he works full time or part time for NFL Network, but when I was third or fourth grade, and we're the same age, 87 forever.
Hmm.
Um, So I remembered that Terrell Davis was my favorite running back. When he was with the Denver Broncos,
Hmm.
that line just moved. I remember that Super Bowl. This one's for John, and
I
I
had
didn't
that
understand.
jersey. I had the Terrell Davis jersey.
Yes, yes. So I didn't understand when I finally ran into him at the draft in Nashville. I was like, I didn't understand as a kid that I'm like, where did Terrell Davis go? Like, you don't when you're younger, like you don't realize the longevity of some of the players. It's
And it
so
was
different.
and it was cool for us because like free agency came about in '93. So like as we were growing up, it wasn't as much movement. Like guys stayed on teams for a long time. Like even if they did switch, like Curtis Martin here, like
Yeah.
for a lot of people
Forgot about
from this
that.
area, Curtis Martin is a Patriot. Like me, I grew up in New York, so the Jets would be on TV. Like I knew Curtis Martin as a Jet, and I thought it was awesome. Like man, Curtis Martin. I wrote him a letter. He sent back 3 rookie cards signed. Like Curtis Martin was the greatest dude ever to me. But like
Oh,
nowadays, especially as fans, like you grew up in New England, you're a Patriot fan, and you get to watch a guy like Chandler Jones come in 2012. He's an and then, by 2015, he's on the Cardinals. Like it just not, it's just different. And I think about all of the long Patriot guys, other than like Rodney Harrison, who came and had obviously had a great long career in San Diego. But the rest of those guys like Brewski, McGinnis, Bray, like those guys are known for like just being great Patriots. Like it's just so rare now.
that was my first NFL jersey. It was a Rodney Harrison jersey. And when he got hurt and tore his ACL that year, I hung it over my bed in college. So,
Yeah.
what was your first jersey?
It was a
You know, I'm
Cowboys.
all about throwbacks. Was
I
it
think it,
Cowboys?
I think it was Emmitt Smith. My older brother was a diehard Cowboys fan, so I had Emmitt, I had a Michael Irvin, an eight. Like I had like my mom. That's all I would want for Christmas is like one of their jerseys. But Emmitt Smith was a guy. I read his autobiography when I was in like fifth grade, and like he was one of my couple running backs. Him, Terrell Davis, and Curtis Martin were
Yeah.
like three of my favorite running backs growing up.
So, were you upset when you didn't grow to be a running back size? Seems
No, when
like
I was in high school and I played some running back and they hit you from all different angles. Not for me. Put me back on defense, coach.
there was one of the funniest things, stories I think Chris Long was telling. They're talking about like the new offensive linemen that come in the league. These like monstrous humans that are the 0.1% of
Yeah.
human populations, and when they go up against him, and he said that he like took a block and one of the guys like hit him super hard, and he came off the field, and Ninko went in and did the same. He's like, "Did you feel that?
That was probably
Like, did you feel that?"
in 2016. All those guys were trying to avoid going against Trent Brown.
Oh
We
yeah,
we call,
I think that was who it was.
we called him the Mountain when we played against him. So all those guys are trying to go on the other side. Him and Nico.
Oh my god. Oh god. Who was it? What was the biggest hit that you've ever taken?
Um, like in my life.
No,
Well,
well,
I'll say both times. Like every time I've taken a big hit, it's been like somebody cracked back at me. Like Kelvin Benjamin hit me when he was in Buffalo, came blindside, got me pretty good. Got me pretty good. But
yeah.
those in college, I got one like that against Louisville one time. Knocked me pretty good.
Oh, good segue to the college stuff. Because
That's
Maryland,
why you.
we got to talk. We got to talk about Tua's brother. Just, I mean, literally, just
We're not worried about that.
Maryland over Rutgers.
We're
But
not worried about that. I know you see. I know you see the buzz. Rutgers is buzzing right now.
I don't think that's enough. I think beating Minnesota and being a 20-point underdog on a national stage, I think there's more buzz in College Park.
No, you guys got killed the first week.
Yeah, because that's what always happens. Listen,
You got killed. Who was
gotta
it?
get.
It was who killed you guys week one? It wasn't
I don't
even
know.
like
My producer's gonna look it up because
yeah, it
he's
wasn't a
loves that
juggernaut.
college game. He loves those college
We had
games.
to start with Michigan State, then we played Indiana, who beat Penn State, and now we got Ohio State. We played it.
Yeah.
We were one of the toughest.
Oh, you're 38-point underdogs against Ohio State. Do you think you can
Yeah,
cover
yeah. Uh,
it?
yeah. Hey, we're shocking the world this year. Once they brought Schiano back, it's different.
Oh
This
yeah,
is like the old Rutgers, the Rutgers
old
that produced
Rutgers.
all the NFL players.
Yeah, exactly. That just streamlines straight to Foxborough. What was it
Yeah.
like playing with your brother for Greg Schiano, and how similar is that? I'm sure that you've asked and been answered this question
You
so
know
many.
what? People think like Bill and Shannon are like nowhere. Like Shannon's crazy. Like he's a nut.
Yeah.
And
How? Tell
Bill
me.
just he's a yeller, screamer. Like he's all on your face. Like Bill's not really like that. But the crazy thing is what I noticed the most about my time in college was how much stuff Shannon said was relevant in the NFL. Like all the time, things he would tell us and in life. Like I remember he got on us and as leaders, he was like, you guys just don't understand. You got to understand. You need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You guys always want to be in your comfort zone. And when he said it, as a 19-year-old, you're like, man, whatever. Like, of course I am. And as you get older, you're like, man, like he was right. Like you find yourself in those situations so much. So all of the different cliches that he told us, I find myself telling my wife all the time. She gets annoyed by it, but I've been fortunate. I would say two really great, teachers of the game and two guys as head coaches that I just believe will outwork anybody. Staying up late, watching everything they could watch, like preparation wise. Been very fortunate to play for Shannon and then for Coach Belichick.
Yeah. I mean, it's just old man wisdom. I feel like it's like old teacher wisdom. They're so
Dropping gems.
yeah, it's just so wise. They got it down pack. It's like in the
Hmm.
front of their brain, not in the back. Can
Yeah.
you remind me or refresh my memory? Your brother obviously went to the league a year before you, but how did he have an extra year of eligibility?
I redshirted. So Schiano
Oh.
kind of missed the boat on my talent. He didn't think I was that good at first. So I had a red shirt. I had a red shirt, and he came out. So he did his 4 years, and I did the 4.5, and then came out.
What was that draft experience like for Jason, and waiting until 6 rounds to get drafted, and then how did he kind of comfort you and prepare you for your draft experience 2010?
Yeah, we always talk about it because it was both like they were totally different.
Yeah.
For him, it was maybe two, maybe three or four friends came over. Um, we're day two of the draft. We're the late Sunday draft.
You guys were
And
drinking, you got heavy into the 30.
yeah, no, we wasn't even drinking. We were like outside. You're just waiting. Like my
Yeah.
mom gave up on it. She's like, I'm done watching this because we don't know. We have already watched, almost all of the 6 rounds.
Yeah.
And then all it did was scroll on the bottom of the ticker. He got the call, and then it was Tennessee drafts Jason McCourty, Rutgers. Like that. That was it. And then you fast forward to a year later. Like we didn't invite anybody to the house. Like 15 people show up to the house, just randomly show up to the house. Like, hey, we mind watching the draft with you guys. And just sitting in, I would say the same waiting game and nerves. And, for him, he knew he wasn't going early. For me, it was like, you might go in the first round, you might not.
No.
And then it was the first year of only the first round being on that night. So it was like, if I didn't get drafted, I would have had to go to sleep and then wait all the way to the next night. So it was cool. I would say it also let us know it was time for my mom to move as soon as we could. People just stopping by. But it was awesome getting drafted in the first round and just having J Mac there. I was there when he got drafted. He was there when I got drafted, and I would say both times we got to just celebrate of accomplishing really a lifelong dream.
I remember when you got drafted and I said, "Who the hell is Devin McCourty? Why do we get this guy?" Were you
I didn't
quickly
I didn't get I
became a
didn't get
favorite?
booed. I didn't get booed in New York because I was a Rutgers guy. So at the draft they cheered, but they
Oh,
booed obviously the Patriots at first. But they showed me love there. But I'm sure every bar and every place in Massachusetts was booing as loud as possible.
it was just one of those like what? Like Kyle Duggar, Lenore. Where the hell is Lenore Ryan?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my introductory press conference. They called me a special teams player. It was like
No.
a lot of people are kind of shocked they drafted a special teams player in the first round. I was like, oh well, damn. Okay, straight to it.
Who said that? Do you
I
remember?
don't no, because like I was
It
a
was
so
someone definitely in the Patriots organization. That sounds like Patriots media.
no,
No?
no, it was like one of those where you come in, you take your picture, and then they open it up. So like if it would happen now, like I know almost all the beat reporters like no,
Oh.
but like back then, I'm just there, and the questions are coming out, and I was like, oh, that was a shot to the heart.
Ooh, so chip on your shoulder. When did you finally
Yeah.
like realize that you were gonna have a lasting impact on this defense and the secondary as a whole? I mean, your number's gonna be retired in the Patriots Hall of Fame. I have no doubt about that. Like when did that finally hit you?
Um, honestly, like talking about like a mainstay like on the team, probably
Yeah,
not
like
till
you
like
feel like you had like a real lasting, a powerful voice and an impact.
I would say probably not till like the last couple of years. I don't know. I just never thought of myself that way. It's probably because of how I came in and obviously having a great rookie year, but then a down second year. I always feel like, there's people that remember me for like my career and what I've done. And there's some people who are like, only thing they remember is my second year. And
Right.
I just don't think about that stuff. It's been awesome, I would say the biggest impact, and I always tell people that I think my biggest impact being a player on New England will be off the field. I think there's plenty of people in this organization, which is crazy to say, that have won 2 or 3 Super Bowls. Like that, like that's just insane to say. But I think off the field, the stuff that I've been able to do, and dots that I've been able to connect, and starting, with some grassroots organizations and connections that will probably forever be with the Patriots. And I'll say some that you just wouldn't imagine. I've been able to really build, a relationship with the Kraft family and doing all of the off the field stuff to me will be way more impactful. And I think when people do speak about me, they'll probably talk about that first before they talk about even playing. So
Yeah.
I take pride in that. I think that's awesome to accomplish those things.
Being so outspoken on social justice reforms, and that's another big part of your voice as a a player in the NFL and your role in the league and creating change. How do you think the league has progressed in that sense
Yeah,
so
I think it's
far?
been yeah, I think it's been awesome to see so many of us as current players be able to look back in history. And I know for me, like it really dawned on me watching when Bill Russell's statue was built here. And, I'm a player and I'm like, man, like Bill Russell, like I remember reading biographies and looking him up, him and Wilt Chamberlain's battles. Um, and I thought about it and I watched an NBA TV special where he talked about like he didn't like coming back to Boston. He talked about being a player and how he was treated and how the people in the city, like everyone treated him. And he was like, I just don't have fond memories personally of being there. And that's when it dawned on me. I was like, and he used that for to stand up and do different things. And I feel like for a little while we've kind of skipped that as athletes of being out there and being outspoken. And I would say right now we just have great leadership from an athlete standpoint. We talk about LeBron James, you talk about Malcolm Jenkins, Kaepernick, Eric Reed, Anquan Bolt. Like there's been so many guys that have elevated platforms for the rest of us, and we just have to do our part. And hopefully, everything that we're doing now, when I'm long retired, these high school kids and some of these college kids, as they grow up, they're like, man, like I was a Patriot fan and I watched, Devin McCourty not only play, but I watched him go to the state house and do things like that. That when they come up, it's second nature. It's not a big deal. It's like, yeah, that's what we do. Like to me, that's my hope going forward.
You're making me proud. You're making everyone else proud. Your
Appreciate that.
lasting effect on the league. Yeah, I mean, you and I have been close friends since we graduated high school, college. So not high school. Back when you came into the league. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on my the last time we talked it was during quarantine. I had
Yeah.
a I had that little live. You were saving me from boredom. But yeah, Deb and I go way back. Who
Yep.
created the guy who created marketing guy who created the McCourty twins was a good friend of mine from college. So
Mhm.
I appreciate your time coming on here. Listen, the last thing I offered you chips and salsa and queso from the family restaurant, possibly some tequila because we own a tequila bar. And you said no, 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 I don't eat that. And what was your
Well, you
response?
that tequila though for the off season, I will definitely take you up on that for the off season. No
We've
tequila
owned a
during the
tequila
season.
bar for 40 years. Come on, you got to know this. You need to know
I didn't
this.
know that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Uh-huh.
That is awesome.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but okay, so I said I offers you chips and salsa and queso and you go, what was your response? I don't eat that
I don't eat
because
that. I got a chef. My wife's the chef.
that's
She's a
why I got
chef. That's why
married.
you
That's
get
what
that's why
you
you get
said.
married. Yeah, that's why you get married. Come home to a nice cooked meal. I tell the guys in the locker room all the time, missing out. They think this is some bad thing. They're missing out. I don't worry about takeout. There's no DoorDash and no Uber Eats around here. We come home to good home cooked meals for me and the young ones.
Yep. And I think I win an award because I'm one of the only people in a 50-minute interview that your kids haven't interrupted.
They're
They
eating
must
dinner.
like me the most.
They're eating dinner. They're living it up right now.
Thanks so much for
And
your time, Devin.
I got him a new squishy ball.
Oh, what's a
Nah, no
squishy
problem.
ball?
Anytime, anytime.
Wait,
He's
Peppa Pig? Are they
they're like
watching
it's
Peppa Pig or what?
nah, they don't do as much. They're big movies and they're into dinosaurs heavy right now. So they watch Jurassic
Oh,
World on Netflix. Yeah, all into dinosaurs.
it's too scary for me. I really didn't like dinosaurs. It was just anything that had
Nah,
fangs.
I'm raising them tough. Got to make them tough.
I love it. Thanks so much for your time, Dev.
Nah, no problem. You have a good night.